Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks and Modern Campground. Excited to be here with you all for our first week episode. We should have Scott Bahr joining us in a few minutes. He messaged me and said he was in a super important critical meeting, and so he'll be here in a few minutes, hopefully. But this episode is kind of focused on I stopped being able to talk all of a sudden. Data and analytics and all that kind of interesting stuff that we have going on here in our industry. Lots of stuff is changing rapidly. We were talking about before the show. But I'm excited to welcome all of our recurring guests back here. We have Eleonore from RVDA of Canada, Phil from RVDA of the United States, Rafael from Blue Water. Simon is one of our special guests. Well, we have two Simons now. That's going to be really confusing. I'm just going to say Simon and do like two N's at the end of your name, Simon Neal. And then that'll be you'll know I'm talking to you. And then we have Declan all the way from Australia, from Roomsday.io. Welcome, Declan. Appreciate you guys all being here. Let's go around the room and just briefly introduce ourselves. Let's start with Eleonore, our recurring guest.
Yeah, well, good morning. I'm Eleonore Hamm, president of the RV Dealers Association of Canada. We represent the Canadian RV dealers that sell inventory to the campground industry.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Eleonore. Phil, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Phil Ingrassia. I'm Eleanor's counterpart in the United States, president of the RV Dealers Association US. We represent motorhome travel trailer dealers as well.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Phil. Let's go with Simon Neal next.
Hi, I'm Simon, the founder of Camp Map. We're a digital platform that helps outdoor hospitality improve marketing and guest experience with premium digital maps that integrate with your booking, app, website, everything.
All right, let's go with Rafael next. But Rafael, before you introduce yourself, I have a question for you. If you were playing Simon Says, how would you do it with two Simons?
I do whatever Simon Neal tells me, and the other Simon looks pretty smart too. So I'll follow both of their leads.
All right, cool. Please introduce yourself. Sorry.
Yeah, Rafael, Correa, President CFO here at Blue Water. We are an RV platform. We own RV resorts, but we also third-party manage. We're the largest third-party manager of RV resorts in the country. And we also have a sister company called Great Outdoor Cottages that we build park model RVs. So I've got a world in the RVIA, RVDA, and outdoor hospitality industry. We're vertically integrated. Love to be part of all of it.
Nice. I don't think I knew about the cottages thing. Is that new?
You didn't know about the cottages thing?
Maybe I just am old. I forget what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I don't think I did.
Yeah, we've been in the business for about 3 years. We built them out of Georgetown, Delaware, and we build a pretty nice premium product that the name's getting out there slowly but surely.
Very cool. Well, congratulations 3 years later. Let's go to our special guest, Simon, not N.
Yeah, hey, my name is Simon Stockner. I own KispioxRiverLodge here in northwestern British Columbia, along with my sister. We co-own it together and kind of a family business. Mom and dad are just down the road, and they're kind of part of the deal here as well. And we've been here for 4 years. This lodge has been a big part of our community's history, and we're kind of new business owners, but we're loving it. And we have cabins, we have rooms, we have camping availability, and we like to put on events and community events and private retreats and such. We're only in our 4th year, so we're just kind of getting into it, but we love it, and I'm honored to be here. I'm happy to stoked to learn whatever I can and be a part of this. So yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm sure we'll learn from you too. Are you on Vancouver Island?
No, we're
further northwest.
We're about like a 13-hour drive from Vancouver north. So if you follow Highway 16, kind of as far north as it goes, that you get to a small town called Hazelton.
Okay.
And then we're just like half hour north of Hazelton. So that's when we go to town, we're in Hazelton, but we're in between Terrace and Smithers, if you know those towns, a little bit bigger.
Yeah. My podcast producer is freaking out. Go ahead, open your mic and talk. Damn, she has a question for you, Simon.
I'm sorry, I don't have a question. I was just going to ask you about Kitimat because I grew up there and nobody ever knows about it. And you started talking about north of Vancouver. So I'm really excited that you even know where Hazelton is.
Absolutely. Kitimat and Terrace and Prince Rupert, that's kind of our whole little scene up here. We love
the farthest north I've ever been is Squamish for the big soccer tournament that happens every year there.
That's not very far.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm just saying, like I've been to Vancouver Island and Port Hardy up there, But on the mainland, I've only been up to Squamish. So
Where is everyone here? Anyone else from BC or people kind of out east? Or
I'm
from
based
Calgary.
I'm based in Ocean City, Maryland.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
from
in
Calgary.
Vancouver.
Eleanor's in Vancouver, and then Phil is in. Where are you at, Phil?
I'm in Fairfax, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay, and then
We're not far from each other, Phil.
Simon Neal is in Croatia, and Declan hasn't introduced himself yet, so we're just going to pretend nobody knows where Declan's from. Go ahead, Declan.
Hey guys, thank you. So Declan Mimna, I am actually coming out of Ireland today, but the Roomstay.io was founded in Australia. So Roomstay is essentially a conversion checkout platform. So everything from you think of the word conversion, right from acquisition to website through to checkout, take the payment and then exit into the PMS. So that's our layer, which is conversion focused, but yeah, coming out of Ireland today.
We're in Ireland. I was just there in September. Not just there, I guess, but a few months ago.
I'm right on the border, actually, County Tyrone, so just right on the north of the border, but I could walk across into the south of the border, so I'm very much
Yeah, we went to Finlock in Northern Ireland, which is right on the border on the west side, like a nice glamping resort there.
Yeah.
And then we wrapped around and did the whole like top north by the Giant's Causeway, and then we went down through Belfast and took some of the Black Taxi tour and stuff like that. So
nice. Yeah, I actually went to Finlock during the summer. Yeah, it's a lovely glamping resort. Yeah, it's really cool.
yeah, it's beautiful. I didn't have time to enjoy it as much as I did. Did you go to the restaurant though?
Yeah, unreal, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was delicious food. Sorry, guys, we're back to the show now. Okay, so typically how we start off this conversation, like I have an interesting thing I want to talk about Gen Z today for data. I know hopefully Scott will join us. He'll bring some data points up too. And we typically toss this to our recurring guests, Phil, Eleanor, Simon, Neal, Rafael. Scott's there. Look, Scott, welcome. Introduce yourself. You just snuck in on me, man.
Well, I tried to, but I was just lurking backstage for several minutes.
That's a
I was
podcast.
a lurker. So, Scott Bahr, Karen Consulting Group, do market research, and great to be here. I don't know if I need to say anything else yet.
No problem.
I tend to ramble on, so I'm going to try to monitor myself.
Well, yeah, you also get 2 bonus hours to talk to the world later today, so that these other guys don't have. But so to my recurring guests, so Phil, Eleanor, Scott, Rafael, and Simon Neal, is there anything you guys think we should be talking about that we need to bring up that we haven't talked about since our last time together?
I mean, I'm happy to kick off and, I tell you kind of some early 2026 trends that we're seeing. Maybe we kind of start there. I mean, I'd love to hear from the Dealers Association on kind of what they're hearing, even if it's not the official data, see what they're hearing some early good things out of the manufacturing side from RVIA. Hopefully they're getting to the lot and moving quickly for all of our sakes. But from the standpoint of campgrounds, so we manage almost 60 RV resorts across the country. So we get a pretty good bead on what's happening from all the way from institutional assets to more long-term stay assets, a lot of highly transient RV parks. But we've seen a very nice, since the change of the year, since we got through that kind of weird 2-week holiday season where Christmas and New Year's fell, everybody kind of just completely checked out and stopped working and doing anything else. And
I didn't, but okay.
Certainly weren't booking a lot. But since the turn of the year, we've seen a really nice uptick in booking pace. And so it's still obviously way too early to tell if this is like, something that's going to stick. And hopefully we're on this new kind of growth trajectory as an industry. But I'll take the wins where we can get them. And within that, we obviously track our vacation rentals, what we call VRs, which is anything where we provide the bed separately from tent, separately from our transient RV, separately from our seasonal or long-term RV. And specifically the one we've been monitoring, because it's the one that's been dragging a little bit, is transient RV. And we've seen a nice pickup in that specific subset. So yeah, I'm encouraged. I'm excited. We're going to try and keep this momentum going into the season, and hopefully we're on the new normal growth trajectory.
Scott, what do you think? Because you and I were looking at what Michael put out from CampSpot, right? And it was not like anywhere like polar opposite of what Rafael's saying, but it was kind of flat to slightly down was their forecast. I think I saw the so far, right? Obviously, there's a long way to go in 2026, and we're very early in a booking window that we reported on as shortened. But what are you seeing to either back that up or anything, Scott?
Yeah. What we're seeing is that attitudinally, people, we're seeing a little bit more of a positive sentiment out there.
Okay.
And we've talked about that at length on here as well as out Wired too,
Yep.
what that means. And the highly positive sentiment is looking, it's looking fairly good, and I say that, I don't want to dampen the optimism too much, but I also don't want to overstate it, because what we're looking at is, if someone asked me, do I think this year will be better than last year? My answer would be yes, I do think it will be. And that's based on that sentiment that is higher than it's been in about 3 years. It's kind of like looking at consumer sentiment, it's like, what does that mean? And it's a little bit lagging. And so the effects we probably won't see for several months. But if things can hold, like weather can hold, we don't see any major, economic disasters or anything, I would say that the outlook is probably going to be, up slightly. I do, and I think we should all hang our hats on that, because for some people it's been a rough couple of years, and so let's at least hold on to that. But and believe me, I wouldn't say that if I didn't see it in the numbers that we're looking at.
Do we have a sense of why people feel the sentiment is up this year over the last few years? Is there anything in the data to point to that?
I think a lot of it has to do with they have adjusted their lifestyles quite a bit to maybe the new abnormal that we live in.
Okay.
So
like the uncertainty has already been happening. They're used to the uncertainty now. That's the new normal type thing.
Yeah. Even if the economy isn't great, they've adjusted. Okay. And we're going to do some new stuff on this as well. But you're kind of looking at exactly what some of those adjustments are at a much more granular level. But overall, people tend to, like, maybe they don't camp quite as many days, but they still go. Maybe they camp the same number of days, but they downgrade the type of site they use, stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and I feel like that is what drives some of that. Where, again, maybe instead of going out for all your meals while you camp, you prepare them on site. You buy your own groceries, you bring them, you cook them over the fire. That, by the way, I've done that analysis. You can save a ton of money by doing that. So those are.
Have my robot go camping with me and cook all my campfire food.
Well, if you can afford to bring your robot with you, then you could just afford to go out to dinner. So,
I'm still in negotiations with Eleonore for a loan. So,
and Scott too, I guess to that effect, like, when you think about the U.S. specifically, right? And I don't want to speak for Canada, but because we don't have any locations up there yet. But even if there is downward financial pressure on the U.S. consumer, aren't we poised and positioned well as an industry to take advantage of that, in the sense that, yes, you can travel, you can cook for yourself. It's a way, the dollar is also, struggling. Its buying power has shrunk. So going overseas is more expensive. All these factors really play into this concept of affordability and that we offer in our industry.
I agree. And it's effectively telling that story to the guests, instead of just assuming that they know. There's a lot of misinformation out there that I'm not saying other people are putting it out. I'm just saying that, for example, on the if you go on message boards, if you go out there and look at what people are saying, they say that, oh, it's expensive. In fact, I saw someone post that camping was just as expensive as staying in a hotel, and that's what prompted me to do my analysis of what it costs to actually stay somewhere. And again, it's a much more complex story than just saying it's cheaper. You have to tell them how and why. Like you were saying, and I was saying, prepare your own food, bring that along, but tell people how to do it. Tell them what they need to do. It's like bring them along. There's a perception that, RV traveling is expensive, but if you own your RV, it's not. It's only second really to staying in a tent.
But that's a big if, right, though? That's a big population center of the United States that does, but it's not like it's not the majority. It's not even a third, is it? What's the percentage that owns an RV of the United States population?
Among campers, it's about a quarter. It's about 25%.
Okay, yeah.
So, which is a big group. It's still a big group of people.
Yeah.
There's actual owners, then there's RVers who don't own, but they still consider themselves RVers. And that's a decent population that I think in some respects gets overlooked a bit. But anyway, the idea there is that if you do own an RV, or you can borrow one, borrowing one's even better, that it's a pretty inexpensive way to travel and to camp. So I think those messages, the more we can push those out, the better. Again, in my analysis, just to use the example of where I live in Maine, I did it on a family of 4 traveling from Boston up to this area where I live, which is in the western part of Maine. And for a weekend, if a family of 4, including gas and everything, if they stay in the tent, it's under $300 for the weekend. If they stay in an RV, it's like, I don't know, $400, $450, maybe, just because you're paying a little bit extra for the site. And that's, again, if you prepare your own food. That's a pretty cheap family getaway.
Yeah, we've got some interesting pricing data that you've seen, Scott. That's
I have, and that's gonna help bolster that case.
Yeah,
that's gonna help a lot with that.
What else we got?
Brian, if I could jump in real quick, just on the affordability issue that Scott was bringing up. Eleanor and I had a chance last month to go down to the Florida RV Super Show, which is one of the largest consumer RV shows in the U.S. And I would say that one of the things that I came away with from that event was that manufacturers and dealers are really stressing affordability of units. There's a lot of new entry-level lightweight towables out there that are extremely affordable now for a big chunk of the camping audience. So I think that the RV manufacturers have certainly taken that loud and clear, and to kind of get their price points at certain levels, whether it's $19,999 or $24.99, whatever that price point is. I think we saw a lot of that at Super Show and at other retail shows across the country this year.
Yeah, and if I can jump into, just to echo that, we've had 3 retail shows. There was the Calgary show, Winnipeg, and Halifax, and the dealers there have said, the attendance was pretty much par from year priors, so that's good. Sentiment seemed to be better. Just the vibe. There's just, how do you measure vibe? But the vibe seemed to be a lot more positive at the shows, and there were people with younger families coming in again, which is kind of what we've been seeing, which has been missing for the last few years. And while the number of units were pretty much on par in terms of sales from year prior, but the dollar volume is going to be less because they're selling the aluminum trailer, like the more entry level trailer product is what has been selling versus, for the last probably last 3 years, that's been where there's been the gap. So hopefully those families are coming in. They're seeing our messaging about affordability. RV in Canada, our marketing branch does talk a lot in our marketing about the affordability, and hopefully those people are coming in. So I agree with what Scott and Phil have just noted.
Declan or either Simons, do you have anything to add that you'd like to? I know you're in different countries, but maybe this is mirrored or not mirrored, or similar things or not, or you can change the subject too if you want.
I've got some pricing data I could share that's come in from 2025. If you want to have a look at that. Let me share my screen.
You'll have to let his screen in, Jessica. Oops. It should be in hover over the people.
Okay, it's coming up. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's coming. There you go.
Okay, there we go. So this, love these guys, PingCamp. It's one of the biggest marketplaces in Europe, and they do a really good job of gathering pricing data. So this is their 2025 summary of, average nightly site prices for all different countries in Europe. So you can see there's quite a big variation all the way from Germany, the lowest, which is really quite low. 40 euros is what, $50? And you're going up to the highest, which is Italy and Croatia, which is like 70, 75, $80, with the average of 52. So nice to see the difference. And basically this is driven, by weather, essentially. The warmer and nicer the weather with the close to the coast, you're going to get a higher price. So that's map distribution. Again, shows you kind of Northern Europe. It's pretty similar. Then you get to Southern Europe, hot weather, everything goes up. But this is quite interesting, is the change in price over time. So the average growth year on year is around 6%. But then you see some countries stayed the same. UK, Sweden, France up a little bit. But then countries like Spain, massive jump, 9% up. And they actually did really well this season. So
Is that
quite
just
a bit of
is
fluctuation.
that indicative of just they had a really good season? They felt they could raise prices more, do you think? Or
Yeah, I don't know what the driver is, but I guess they got the demand and they just went with it. And for whatever reason, they were full and they put the pricing up. But generally, 4 to 6% year-on-year growth, steady the last couple of years. And this is just, again, another comparison of, the price change between 2024 to 2025. So again, the hot countries in the south on the top, growing a little bit, and everybody else is kind of lagging behind. But I think this, I don't know how that compares directly to the US sort of pricing for a site night. And again, these sites are mixed tent RV. It doesn't really matter what you have, you're going to pay the same amount for it.
I don't know, Scott, is there any data out there on this yet for 2025?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
The just a thought on that. Rafael mentioned earlier the US dollar weakening. If you're looking at GBP or AUD or NZD, that hasn't happened in a long time, the US dollar weakening. Now, you're talking about numbers in the US, obviously we're ANZ and we're in high season, so it's make hay when the sun shines in the summer season, so down under. But the reality is whenever you see a softening US dollar, what we would see is a lot of slippage into that US market. And so therefore, like when you're talking about a very high level, when is the moment to raise prices for the US? Well, if the GBP, major markets, GBP, Euro, and AUD for inbound markets have increased in value, is that a moment where the US prices can increase? Because that is the travel moment. And so that's historically, I'm going back to my days of Expedia, the moment that we see a weak US dollar, we see a lot of outbound out of every country. And so you have a moment right now where it's actually gone weak. So that's a thought.
Well, that'll be interesting to see how that impacts, because Scott, we've done some, we don't need to rehash it now, but we've done some discussions about international travel to the U.S., both from Canada and from overseas. It will be interesting to see, like basically what you're saying, Declan, and I think you're right, is that if the U.S. dollar continues to weaken or stays in its weakened state, that there's a potential that some of that could come back. What do you think, Scott?
If it does, I feel like it will lag for a while. I don't think it will come back right away.
Even with the World Cup this year?
Well, that's a one-time event, right? Like people are for sure coming for the World Cup.
Well,
yeah,
my argument is that the weak dollar plus the World Cup is gonna, and we know all the real soccer fans are in Europe, right?
Yeah, be careful though.
There's no soccer fans. There's football fans.
Football fans, yes.
Yeah.
But they put the ticket price up by 700%, which is like,
really,
yeah, for the mid-level games in the finals, and it's absolutely insane. I don't know why anybody would do that, but that could be a real mixing the pot a bit.
I feel like people would mortgage their oldest child to go see their team play.
Yeah, they would if that's still enough.
Anything you want to add, Simon Stockner?
Not too much. This is a little bit over my head, all this data, and so
it's over my head. So don't worry about it, man.
I'm loving it. It's all good. I'm interested.
That's why I'm asking all the other people for comments. I don't know what they're talking about either. So we'll be together. We'll hang out. What are you noticing trends-wise in British Columbia? Anything like that's changed year over year for you, or?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, to be totally honest, I mean, I do plenty of camping myself, but my style of camping is a little bit more like load up the truck and drive down the road until you can't drive anymore. So I'm not really in tune with like the campsite scene necessarily, but I would probably agree that, yeah, I mean, things are getting more expensive the way the world is going, right? I mean, and yeah, I mean, I'm again interested to learn more about this, but that I can see how that's for sure a thing. I mean, things are just getting so expensive and yeah.
Well, talk to us a little bit about your outlook at the lodge for 2026. What are you looking forward to, planning?
Yeah, we're looking at getting into one exciting thing that I'm working on is we were approached by an agency called Little Travel Europe, and they're a booking agency in Europe, and they work with their clients and connecting them with, they use the word like genuine outdoor experiences and lodges and campsites and such. And they approached us, and they're pretty happy with us so far. We've just only started working together, so it's pretty fresh, but we're pretty excited to kind of, I guess, break into a European market and hopefully have some Europeans stay with us and see how that goes. So yeah, that's something in the works that is maybe relatable here. But, yeah.
What's the closest? Tell us a little bit about your place. I guess we don't really know anything.
For sure. Yeah. So if you were to pull up, I mean, maybe just location first, pull up on a map where British Columbia is huge, right? We're about halfway up the province. We're just a few hours away from the coast. Prince Rupert is the nearest like port city. And then we're just like 3 hours inland from that on Highway 16. And yeah, we're tucked away here in the Kispiox Valley. It's a pretty beautiful part of the world. We're happy to be from here, and I'm born and raised here. Yeah, we as a lodge, we focus a lot on accommodations. So we have cabins for rent, and we also have rooms here in the lodge. And something we're trying to get a little more into is like private group retreats. We've done a few of those, and they work great to have like 20 or so people here stay at the lodge, and we could have dinners all provided for them. Sure. We could have like a music night one night. We could go rafting the next day. We could have a really nice kind of all-inclusive experience with a group of like 15 to 20 people. We also love supporting other local businesses though. So we might send them to a farm, or we might send them down to check out the First Nations totem poles. Yeah, that's us right there.
Yeah, I pulled you up. I couldn't share you on the main screen because I have two computers over here, but yeah. What's the closest airport to you?
Closest airport is Smithers, which is about an hour away. And then Terrace is about 2 hours away.
So I'd have to, where can I connect from Calgary to get there? You know?
You know what? I just took a plane recently from Calgary to Terrace.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think it's Coast Mountain Air that does that. But otherwise, it might be cheaper even to go like WestJet or whatever and go Vancouver and then up.
Well, I try to avoid WestJet whenever I can. So I keep getting taller. They keep shrinking the size of the seat. So, so what are you most looking forward to for 2026? I know you talked about some of your plans and stuff, but what do you think you'd like to, like, if everything goes your way, what are some new interesting things you'd like to see happen at the lodge?
Yeah, I would like to. So I have a background in rafting. I have one of my past jobs that I was thrilled with, and I kind of went, and then we took over the business. But I was a raft guide, and we worked with a company, a little organization here called Youth on Water, and it takes kids out on the river, and we teach them rafting skills and safety on the river, and which is a very important skills to have around our area because we have plenty of amazing, beautiful rivers here, which are dangerous, but if you know how to be on them, you can have a lot of fun and be very much empowered by the outdoors in that sense. So it's a free program. We take kids out, and teach them all the skills they need to know to be safe on the river. And that was an awesome time in my life, and I'd love to apply those skills to this lodge. And so whether that means offering like day trips to couples, or like take out a family for a day float, or even maybe I could put on my own like kids camp, river camp type of thing. But I would love to be offering rafting trips out of the lodge is one thing I'd love to do. It's a big passion of mine.
And there's a ton of data we have on that, Scott, too, right? Like those not just the rafting, but the skills and the knowledge and the enhancements, and the experience is too much of a generic word, but really helps drive more people there, right?
Absolutely. And, building on, what Simon was just saying, it's like, I just spoke with someone yesterday here locally. He has a small little park of yurts, and he operates year round. And he's a fly fishing guide and an artist. And he's built, but he kept saying community in the whole conversation. That's all he talked about was community, building the community. And he's using the fly fishing as the inroads with a lot. He said he's been amazed at how many parents bring their kids there because they want them to spend more time outdoors, which is something we can talk about more when we talk about the Gen Z stuff. But it was interesting that the draw there is the experience. Like this time of year, people can go, downhill skiing or cross country skiing or snowshoeing. He's booked throughout the winter. He has 16 yurts. And it's all about that. It's all about that in that skill. Like he's amazed at how many people have come back for the fly fishing after he's taught them how. And kind of like what Simon was saying, and you mentioned, Brian, teaching people those skills. Yeah. All of a sudden they start to have it. They grow and they get confidence, and they come back. They love it.
Yeah, it's like me. I have no confidence in skiing. That's why I don't go back.
See?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Example. Yeah. But also, I don't have any patience, so I feel like fly fishing wouldn't be for me either. It's the same reason I don't golf, but I can play basketball and football. Anyway, Declan, what do you think of all this?
Yeah, I mean, when we come to market trends, obviously we're a different market, but I think we always take it back to and it's a totally different conversation, which is, we're talking about increasing rates and market pressures.
Yep.
If you take this back to going up 10 levels, we always look at where's the booking coming from, and so is the booking coming direct or is it coming from OTAs, and that's a conversation that we're always looking at. And I'm an ex-OTA person myself. We were in the US at the Ojai show in Kentucky back in November, I think it was, and I sat in a room and one of the large players in the room was showing to campground owners is the pressures that's coming down from OTAs. And so what I always say is if it's your own personal bank account and you're going to lose 20% next year, you would do everything to protect it, or 15% or 10%. The data is there that the OTAs are becoming more aggressive into this segment. Obviously hotels was first, and the segment the signals are there. You look at it year over year. And so I think that's where we have our lens right now is we've got stats that every park we're working with is growing year over year, but we know from the hotel game, because we started there, that once the OTAs come in, and they're very hard to get out, and so therefore we're taking it. I know this conversation is going to go into Gen Zs, but if you think about them from an intellectual perspective, it's they're going to know the smarts of cashbacks and shopping around and onto the lowest dollar, which just means that if you're a hotel owner, let's just say it's Simon or any campground owner, and you're not in price parity, or if you have leakage and you have OTA commissions at 15% or 10%, whatever they may be, then it's out of your bottom dollar for the year ahead. And so I know that's a different topic, but Gen Z is very savvy, as we will know, and so I think that's where I guess a focus of ours is, and always has been, but is definitely in this year.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about Gen Z because we put out a nice report on it, and I want to talk about how, what you guys think of all that stuff first. But that's a good segue. I also think that there's something to be said for Gen Z, and Gen Alpha comes after, right, Scott? I always forget this.
Yeah.
Gen Z is the younger, but both of those generations, and even some of the younger millennials. I'm an older millennial, but some of that would make me. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Me, but people who grew up more with technology, right? It'd be interesting to see how AI impacts that, because a lot of the OTAs are going to be dramatically impacted by where AI goes and that discovery goes. And I feel like a lot of that, what you're talking about, Declan, they're much more savvier, but that doesn't mean that they also want to do all the work they used to do when they can just go to AI and it can research and it can. And I don't know how much AI is going to pull back a Booking.com versus a camping website or glamping website, but it'll be interesting to see. That's kind of an interesting shift that we'll have to follow over the next few years, I think, where that's trending.
An interesting exercise is, so if you type in the word Expedia and go to news in Google, for example, you'll see X amount of layoffs last week. But then go to Expedia careers and type in the word AI and have a look at the amount of jobs that they've loaded on AI jobs versus the layoff conversation last week.
Yeah.
Like all you need to do is go up 10 layers and do a bird's eye view and look down. It's like, obviously those big players are taking it very serious. Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, there's a race on there. And so like, I would say we're on the bottom layer, whether we're with independents or groups of park owners, like the writing's on the wall unless we start to make moves. And that's my lens on it.
Okay. Scott, anything to add, or anybody else have anything to add before we swap this to Gen Z real quick?
No, I'm good with the swap.
All right. So I'm curious, before we show what our white paper was that we put out and go through some of that, and I know, Scott, you have some thoughts on that. I'm curious what your guys' overall perspective is, because Gen Z is obviously, whether you label it a generation or not, it's in Europe, Australia, the United States, Canada, everywhere else. Rafael, how do you view this? How do you view Gen Z at Blue Water?
I would tell you that they're a critical component, and I think that, you know, Declan said it well, that they're an incredibly savvy consumer, right? And so their ability to sort information and leverage tools to find what they're looking for is unparalleled, right, in the consumer base. And so you have to be at the top of your game from search engine, all the aspects, and they cross-reference, right? So they're not just looking at the websites, they're not just looking at TripAdvisor, they'll go check out your Instagram. You know, is the vibe right on your Instagram, right? And so these guys are doing a different level of shopping than I think most people have ever been accustomed to. So you have to be firing on all those digital channels and make sure those cross-references are checking out to get that level to get a commitment from them at the end of the day. And then the other question is, and I think that this is kind of, you know, my biggest concern, and what I think about is, you know, my phrase is, these Gen Zs ain't loyal. And I say that meaning that, you know, they may choose you and they may come see you and visit your park, but, you know, they're experience chasers and they're looking for opportunities to, you know, experience the world. They're not necessarily going to come back. And so you're constantly remarketing, where one of the nicest parts about being in the RV industry is that, you know, RVers tend to come home to their, what I would call their home base RV resort, the one that they go to regularly. And then they'll take other trips out, right? Try new things and do things, but they tend to take, you know, 1, 2, or 3 trips to their kind of what I call their home base RV resort, which we are, you know, a lot of our parks are that for a lot of people, especially in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And so you're not only just getting them there and trying to give them such a great experience that they want to come back, right? But you can't expect them to come back, because they're going to be looking for the next Instagram opportunity experience, because they're trying to fill that experience cup, call it. This is just, again, one man's opinion. And because of that, you're reselling, right? And so you're going to get the next Gen Z person to get to keep your penetration into that particular segment of the market.
Is there anything you think that needs to change in the offerings or marketing, not more places marketing, but just how you market and what you say or what you offer at the campground or what you do to accommodate to Gen Z? Or is it just a different channel, do you think, that needs to be reached in a different way with messaging?
Like I said, I think you have to be multi-pronged, because they are so savvy that they're going to cross. And admittedly, this is what I do, right? Like if I find a restaurant, or, you know, I might go Chat GPT or Gemini and do a search, then the next thing I'm going to go is go check their Instagram, and I'm going to go see what that has to say. I'm going to read through the comments. I'm going to, you know, do all these. So my position is that you have to be making sure that you're across all the marketing channels that there are, which there's so many that you have to maintain anymore, that all of them are firing, whether it's the the AI tools that are now becoming more prevalent in search, and are you searchable and coming up in the search. Reddit, right? That's an incredibly powerful tool for that particular subset of people that, you know, the traditional RV consumer probably doesn't use at all, or a very limited basis. And so these are all the things you have to be thinking about. I don't know that. I think the storytelling has to be amplified is probably the biggest thing to answer your question. Is like, what is the story you are telling across all these platforms about who you are, what this experience is? And that is the thing that I'm like in a perpetual mission in our portfolio to say, what is the story that we're trying to tell about this asset that makes us unique, special, different, that will give them a piece of that experience, you know, that hit of experience that they're looking for.
Phil or Eleanor, do you have anything to add from the RV buying perspective? How you view Gen Z?
Well, Go RVing did a study last year on owners and kind of grouped Gen Z and millennials a little bit in the same bucket. And I was just going over some of that data in preparation for this. And it was interesting to me that a lot of these folks, almost half, said they paid for their RV in cash. Now, that could be because they're younger, so they're in more of an entry-level buyer, so they're probably spending between $20,000 and $50,000 on that. But I thought that was very interesting, that a lot of them are cash buyers, so they do have money. The idea that they might be trying to cheap out or whatever is not valid. The other thing is just their buying patterns as far as how they're researching the unit. They're still going to dealerships, but they're doing a lot of YouTube, other social media research before they'll even enter the dealership. So I think that goes to the thing that we've been trying to get across to dealers for a long time, is they need to be more of a consultant versus a hardcore, if I say this, do this, type of sales approach. And I think that dealers who take that consultative approach with these buyers, and I don't care if it's a young person or older person, are going to be more successful in that. But some definite differences between the buying path, I guess, that the younger folks go through than maybe the average age of an RV buyer right now is about 49. So those younger people just take a different approach to buying for sure.
Yeah, I mean, our average age, I think, was about 44, but same thing. It's they're, by the time the younger buyer goes to the dealership, I think they pretty much know what they want, right? They've researched, they've looked at, influencers to see what they're doing, and done most of the research online, right? So they're pretty savvy. So it's no longer just, the features and benefit sales that the dealerships are doing and showing everything there. That's, I would say, the biggest difference between, sort of a more, I was going to say older RVer, but, whatever the appropriate term is. But
people like us, Eleanor.
Yeah, someone who's not in that younger demographic.
Declan, how do you guys view Gen Z in Australia? Or Ireland, if you want to choose that, but
no, yeah, I
just kidding.
I go APAC. I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. It was like, we know obviously they're smart and savvy, but they also know how to stretch the dollar. So, for example, one thing we're very conscious of is stacking. I don't know how familiar everybody is on this call about that, but so, for example, if your Amex card has got an offer, and you can get $30 back on transaction. And for example, if you're able to stack with, an affiliate, so Top Cashback or Shopback or something like that, and all of a sudden you're able to get, for example, a Booking.com Genius Reward member discount or kickback, you're able to stack on your Amex, you're able to stack on top of maybe an affiliate kickback of 5% or whatever it may be, then your dollar is worth, minus 20. And so therefore, I think we look at it from that perspective as like, as an owner operator, whether you're a hotel or V park campsite owner, it's like you're up against price parity, but you're up against a savvy user who's doing the count on the stack. And so all those stacks are essentially kickbacks that they will receive. And so what you have then is this technology gap. So today, a camp owner or campsite owner may not have the ability to, offer maybe Amex as a payment to give that affiliate kickback. And so therefore you're going to lose that booking. And this is where this whole commission conversation comes in really hard, which is why we are really focused on that, because otherwise you're just going to see this web direct tank and this OTA commission aspect grow. And so that's a focus of ours with Gen Z, which is they are very smart from a shopping perspective. And so, yeah.
Either Simon, anything to add? Because I want to toss it to Scott here in a second, and we're going to talk about a report that we put out that's a little bit different than all this. No, I didn't think so, but just making sure. I don't know how much does Gen Z impact you, Simon Stockner, at your lodge? Like, do you think about that, or is it just is it a different type of audience than what we're talking about?
Yeah, our demographic is. Yeah, our guests here are definitely older. I mean, we think we have one couple that are maybe in their teens, and they go back and forth from Alaska and they go down to or something like that, just up and down, and we're kind of on the route. And they found us one year and they come back every time they go up or down, which is cool. But otherwise, no, don't really get guests who are kind of in their 20s. It's most older than that for sure.
All right, Scott. So I would like you to talk through this, Scott, for a couple reasons, right? Like this is an Insider Perks report that came out but it started in its birth through a conversation that Scott and I had on Outwired, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's my recollection, Scott.
Yes.
And then we ran through a bunch of different AI prompts and explored it live on the air and got like this base kind of theory of like, maybe we're all thinking about Gen Z the wrong way. And then I kind of took it and ran with it, and then Scott proofed it before we put it out. And so, but I think Scott has a lot more data to add to this too, and clarity of why we think this is the right path. So I have the report here, Scott, and we don't have a ton of time left in the show, but I think it's important for us to kind of go through at least some of the highlights of this stuff and why it's different than what a lot of people in the industry are saying. And then the full report is available for free on our website, right? So you can share my screen there, Jessica. And then Scott, where do you want to take this? Because you're the data guy. Like we put out the report, but you're the data analysis guy much more than I am, I think.
Well, I guess I would just start off by building on the conversation that we just had, which is where are they in terms of a guest, the potential guest for outdoor hospitality? And I would say that they require a lot of work. You've alluded to that already, and there's a lot of misunderstanding of I feel like of who they are and what they're all about. But there's also some well-found understanding of who they are and what they're all about. And I would launch into this by just saying there's two pieces of data that you won't find in this report because they're too recent. I just did my own work on this, and that is I have this emotional index that measures how connected people are to like activities, the outdoors. And Gen Z is the least emotionally connected to the outdoors of any other generation. And that applies to, and I would say the under 35 crowd overall, which includes some millennials. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit too, hopefully, and the other is that they are the most risk averse generation. And that has been talked about a lot already here with the just in-depth research that they do, the overthinking it of everything they do. They are the least likely to take a spontaneous trip or to make a spontaneous purchase. They're the least likely to just jump in the vehicle and go on a weekend trip. So I say that like it's all gloom and doom, but it really isn't. It's just who they are. It's how they've been raised and where they are in their development. It's very different. They do use a lot of sources. The fact that they rely on influencers a lot, I find worrisome, but whatever. That's my personal thing. Anyway, that's kind of this group being at risk. This attrition rate in the outdoors, and this is all about what
And this number, to be clear, like we did a white paper on this for Insider Brooks. This number comes from your research in the KOA camping report last year, right?
Yeah. So this is a a number from our research. It's been pretty much verified in a couple other follow-on efforts as well. So it's a very high at-risk group, and that goes into that whole idea that they're not as attached emotionally to the outdoors. And it really are these psychological barriers that's mentioned here. It's like why is that? Part of it is that they've grown up fairly isolated. The outdoors can be a scary place. They don't have the skill set.
I have some of it here for you if you want to.
Okay.
We don't have time to go through the whole white paper, so this is just a landing page on my website. But
yeah, and you can keep scrolling through it too if you want, so people can see what's on there, and I'll talk to some of the points. There isn't a lack of interest in being in the outdoors. It's the barriers that are put up by themselves and also by us, making a lot of assumptions about who they are and what they want and what they'll do. And it's a group that needs a little bit more nurturing. They need a little bit more. They need to be challenged, I think, a little bit more. They are not, as this says here. It's like they're not going to be attracted necessarily to your amenities, but it's like, what do you do? What's your environment? What's the vibe of your place? To understand that they are not a big social group either. They are, as the industry calls them, they tend to be solo social. They travel. They're more likely to travel solo, but then socialize when they get to a location with their friends and family. But the idea is they want. They don't have the skill set. We did this in our research, and you can see it here as well. 79% wish they had more outdoor skills, and this is fulfilled by work that we've done that asked their level of comfort and expertise in doing basic camping skills, like building a campfire, cooking over a campfire, knowing what to bring, how to stay warm, how to keep away from bugs, all those things. They don't have it. And Phil, this is one of the things we talked about this out in Arizona a little bit last year too, is the idea that RVing can be intimidating to them because they don't know how to operate them, they don't know how to park them, and they're very intimidated by the idea of owning an RV. So the skill set, I see it as a huge opportunity, by the way. I think this is an area that I think where and Simon talked about the rafting thing and teaching the skills, of being on the river and stuff. That's huge. That's part of your success right there. It's like you're bringing them in for that. The other thing is, and how that relates is confidence, building confidence. These things that you see, a lot of these stats that you see up here are, represent a lack of confidence in something that they're not comfortable with. So again, when you look at, competence terror, boredom, it's the whole thing about peace and quiet is much more relevant to the older group, especially, boomers, Gen X even, but for them, it's like they don't want to be, that isolated. They still want to have, some kind of stimulation. They look to their phones and to connectivity for that. But I think it's up to us to bring them along into other ways as well. This idea that, the competence thing, and I already said too that they're risk averse because they were, as this says here, it's like they were denied that in their development.
Let me read this out real quick for the people who are listening to us on the podcast. If you're listening to us on the podcast, like we're sharing our screen right now, we're just going through the Gen Z report, which is available on insiderperks.com under research for free. It's a white paper, but for competence terror, what Scott is talking about, the industry assumes that Gen Z is lazy and doesn't want to do the work. The research actually shows they are risk averse because they were denied risk-based play. And then the boredom void is the industry assumes they want peace and quiet. The research shows that silence is physiologically distressing to them. Go ahead, Scott.
Which is interesting because they're also a generation that is, supposedly focused on wellness too, right? Which the silent mind. This is, I guess, maybe I'm reflecting my own journey, but of trying to silence my mind and the busyness in my mind and deal with anxiety is very much associated with wellness and outdoors and disconnecting. And
Well,
But I think
you're
like
saying,
you
Rafael,
hear-
is that's exactly the point. That for a lot of folks, they haven't got there to where you're at yet to realize that the outdoors is what they need. They need that.
But also like it says in Dr. Gloria Mark's thing here, right? Like I think part of it is when we offer them a weekend with nothing to do, we're offering anxiety, not relaxation. But when they go to a spa, they have something to do. They have a clear purpose already. Whereas if you're just saying, here's some place to relax and go do whatever you want to do, that triggers more of an anxious. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah, it's right. What's the draw? This is kind of speaking to the draw, how to draw them in. It's a bait and switch, really. It's like, we're going to tell you that you're going to have all these things to do, but when you get here, you're going to slow down, really. So, yeah, this is really about how you position it with them. A lot of this is the whole idea of the skills development thing. I'm personally really into that. I love that topic. We'll have to talk about it more sometime.
And then we have 3 and 4 barriers, right? Productivity guilt. The industry assumes they're burned out and need a break. The research shows that rest feels like failure. And barrier 4 is biophobia. The industry assumes that everyone loves nature, but the research shows that many Gen Z have a measurable fear of the natural world.
And those two, the productivity thing, I mean, that's part of the culture. It's like if you're just hanging out, not doing anything, you're lazy, you're not doing it. And the biophobia stuff, we've been measuring that for a long time. It's the biggest one of the biggest barriers to participation, and part of that comes from lack of skills, confidence, and knowledge that we need to grow with this group.
for context, I know that KOH said that what percentage of the camping population does Gen Z represent?
About 22%, I think.
We think that's part of the long-term potential struggles for an industry that doesn't address some of this stuff, right, Scott?
Yeah.
Is that percentage is not growing because of some of this. Now, to be clear, like, again, just like Scott, I think we've had private conversations about this, right? But labeling something as Gen Z or Gen A or a millennial, it's really the experience they had growing up, right?
Yes.
Period. It's not the label of the generation. But 2, it's like, how do I feed somebody into that? Like they're not coming into camping and sticking because of this.
But I guess here's the question, just to contextualize some of this information. It's like, because this is for reference, and I'm reading this off of Google, so I apologize if this is wrong, but this generation today, as we sit here today, they are age 14 to 29. Okay. Is that relatively accurate?
Yes.
Now, if we take the Gen Z label off of it, has this age group as a percentage of total campers not changed much, or has it changed?
It grows just organically, because it's actually Gen Z adults that are in there. It's not the entire generation. So each year
Gen Zs that are 18 to 29 is basically what we're talking about here in this data. Okay. No, it's helpful context too, because it almost, I almost asked the question too, is that like, do you mature into the outdoors naturally? Like it becomes something that you naturally, like, it's not your focus area. Like I even reflect on my youth, like camping was not what I was interested in when I was 18 to 29. I was more, city, life. I wanted the urban, the busy, the noise. And, as I graduated from that age, I, craved the outdoors and that experience a little bit more. Is that, or am I not thinking about this correctly?
No, I think it is something that people tend to grow into. And, Brian and I talked about this extensively too, the idea of life stage. Like, where are they at in their life stage?
Yeah.
One is bigger than their actually their chronological age. Life stage speaks more to their mental, physical state. Do they have families, careers, all those things? Where are they? And what you're saying, Rafael, is true. It's like when someone kind of has to be more receptive to it. Where are they at in their life overall?
Yeah. So what I want to be careful about is we can't count on these people like we could on previous generations. As far as like we can see today, this could completely change, right?
Yep.
And you tell me
it
if
could.
I'm wrong, Scott. We can't count on them to be the next generation of campers because they grew up in a completely different environment. Like it was like when I grew up, I was climbing trees and falling out and twisting my ankle, right? And so I had more appetite for risk. I was willing to
Or
go
you
out
were
on
just
nature,
terribly clumsy. It's
or I was terribly clumsy, right? Whatever.
TBD.
But I wasn't stuck inside like many of these children are today, right? And yeah, I know we're running
No,
over a
it's-
little bit, so please, if you got to leave. I appreciate it, Eleanor. Thanks for being here. Like I think that that's the difference, right? Is they haven't had any exposure in many cases, not in all cases, because there are some Gen Z who are raised by people who love the outdoors and go camping, and those Gen Z are not what we're talking about in this report, right?
No, yeah, and I think too, just this is fantastic information, and I think are the things that we have to continue to evolve, right? It's in my philosophy has always been evolve or die, and so this type of information is, wildly insightful and helpful. But obviously, just like any data, we have to contextualize it and see how we can make it make sense for us in this next phase. But really appreciate you and Scott taking the effort to put this together. It's powerful stuff.
Sure. And I would add one thing on top of this too to keep in mind is what we've seen in our data is that the Gen Z is the generation that their first outdoor experience was much more likely to be either at a campground that has a ton of services and amenities, or and stay in like a cabin or a glamping type of structure, versus previous generations who stayed in tents, and they have never had that kind of on the ground experience, literally. And it has affected them. And what plays into that as well, I know we're over time here, but is the idea that this is a group whose first outdoor experience in many cases was not prompted because of a love of the outdoors. It was for some other reason. It could have been they were just hauled along on a family trip. They did it. They started during COVID when it was the only thing they could do, or their friends were going. But it wasn't, and we've been running this for 14 years, this question about, what prompted you. And it's the first time we've ever seen the love of the outdoors and the connection to the outdoors not at the top as the reason for engaging. And that's where we got to bring them around.
Totally fair. Like, I don't want to leave people with a negative, right? This is possible to do, and we outlined some of the solutions in the white paper. But like it's just going to take a different approach, not just a difference in marketing. Yes, that's a piece of it, but a difference in how they're like one of the best examples that Scott and I loved in the report, and we used AI for some of this, right? Like extensively to research and check our theories and stuff like that. Was the Green Lantern idea, right? Like they're let's talk about that, Scott.
Oh yeah, the idea that in terms of socialization, that this have a Green Lantern where if it's on, you're open to socialization, but if it's not, you're not. You want to stay to yourself.
Yeah,
and
it's kind
of like it's like at the Brazilian steakhouse. The green says, "Bring me the more meat."
yes, exactly. There it is.
All right, guys, I got to run. Thank you so much for sharing this. This has been fascinating. I'm going to take a closer look for sure.
I appreciate it, Raphael.
Thanks,
so yeah,
guys.
we should is there any final thoughts you have, Scott? Like I know we probably could talk about this for a while, but we
could
got a little bit late start, but
I can talk about this at length. If anyone else wants to talk about it, just let me know. But read the report. There's a lot of great detail in there. A lot of things that we're just kind of skimming over. So please, take the time to read it. And also, and I say this in every show we do, right, Brian? As I invite people, ask questions. Ask Brian. Ask me. Ask Phil. Ask Declan. The two Simons. Ask questions. It's
pause the YouTube video and watch every slide if you don't want to give me your email address.
And if anyone has questions, again, let us know. If we don't have it off the top of our heads, we'll find it. We'll find you an answer. So please reach out.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap up the show then. You stop sharing this for now. Jessica, Declan, where can they find out more about roomstay.io?
On roomstay.io, or to reach out and get me on LinkedIn, Declan Mimna.
And what kind of people do you want to talk to, Declan? Like obviously mostly Australia or?
No, Yeah, so we've got quite a lot of parks in Australia and New Zealand. We've got APAC properties, Pacific, and we've now stepped into the US in 2025. So park owners is what we're focusing on. So groups, individuals, etc. So
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Declan. Sorry we had so much to talk about that we didn't get to spend more time talking about
Thank you.
Roomstay, but definitely something worth checking out. Phil, where can they learn more about RVDA?
RVDA.org. We have a list of dealers across the country and continuing education opportunities as well for folks that are interested in the fixed operations or the support part of RV travel and the RV business.
Simon Neal from Camp Map. Sorry we didn't get to talk to you too much, buddy.
No, it's
We
all
had
right.
so much data to go over this week.
It was great. Really interesting stuff in that report. Yeah, find me on LinkedIn or campmap.com. All the contact details there and lots of information.
Thanks for being here, Simon. Simon Stockner, where can they find out more about your lodge and how to come stay with you?
Yeah, well, we're Kispiox River Lodge. I put the name in my little title spot there, so you can see the spelling of Kispiox and KispioxRiverLodge.ca. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Yeah, online.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here, Simon. Appreciate it. And last but not least, Scott Bahr.
KarenConsultingGroup.com. There's a lot of resources on there. Go to mine or Brian's website. There's lots of reports on both of them. On my website, I have a resource library of a lot of the research we've done throughout the years. There's a ton of information on there. Please, and again, always reach out if you have more questions. There's a good chance we've done it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. Next month on this show, come prepared, guys. We're going to talk about a lot of pricing data that is going to be out that has never existed before in the industry to date. So we're going to have a nice discussion about all that, and it's going to be really interesting. I think Scott will help me lead it, but it'll be another Insider Perks report that's coming out. If you're not tired of hearing of me and Scott, we will be available on Outwired in 52.5 minutes from now, live, talking about AI trends, stuff like that, and some interesting data too that Scott's going to bring to the table. Other than that, we will see you next week on another episode of MC Fireside Chats. Thank you all for joining us, and sorry for going over, but it was a great discussion. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.